The Kevin Long Show is brought to you by The Swamp. You can find The Swamp at www.theswamp.com. There will be a link in the show notes. Music for The Kevin Long Show is The Entertainer by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com. Royalty-free music as long as you give the dude his props. However, there is a legal thing in the show notes just to be safe.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, finally, after all this time.
I know, right? I was going to say that we've been trying to do this since, I guess, really before you were on the stream with Luke for his Cthulhu Lake Geneva adventure. Yeah. It might have been right after, but I'm pretty sure it was before, because that was one of the things I was going to talk to you about, but now it's been so long.
It has been a minute, yeah. Yeah, that was a really fun game, actually. I played a lot of Call of Cthulhu. There's a lot of different kinds of Call of Cthulhu to play. Skeeter's a buddy, but that ended up being really probably my favorite Call of Cthulhu game that I've ever played, period. I mean, it was just a short one-shot, but a lot of fun.
That's awesome. I know that we're just going to hang out and talk about stuff, but let's get a proper introduction.
Sure.
All right. It's that time of the week. Time for the Kevin Long Show. I'm your host, Kevin Long. And with me today is Levi Combs from Planet X Games.
Hello, everyone.
So, what's up?
Nothing. I'm really glad that we can finally do this. I guess it's been a long time coming. Today, I'm actually working on a side project. I'm not working on any Planet X game stuff. Actually working on a project for Frog God Games.
Oh, nice. I like the frogs. Hang out with them a lot.
Yeah, they have a great group of writers and developers over there. But they had approached me about doing a Halloween themed module.
Sweet.
And that's just so super up my alley for the kind of stuff that I like to do. So I'm just literally kind of punching it up and wrapping a few things up today, and then hopefully be able to get this over to them by the end of the week, maybe next week. So,
can you confirm that it's going to be out in time for the spooky season?
It is, at least what I've been told. Again, once it leaves my hands, it's all up to them. But they're pretty spot on about getting things done, and they have a great track record with getting their products out. So I would imagine so. I know that it'll be on Indiegogo or Kickstarter or one of those crowdfunding platforms. But again, that's really kind of all their deal. I'm just I'm writing it with another friend of mine, actually, his co-writer, John McGuire. He does he's Hambone from the Vintage RPG podcast and the creator of the 3-2-1 Action role-playing game.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. And he's into all the sort of same things that I'm into, as far as like Halloween and all the vintage feel of horror and whatnot, which is really kind of what attracted us to this project. And the pitch that the Frogs had was stellar, and they kind of just said, go with it, and here's a few things you need to do, and then make it your own. And I've worked with them a couple times. They're always super great collaborators. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
All right, before we get into magic and shit and the phylactery, how many copies of Still This Zine do you have? Do you print more for each con you go to, or is there a limited supply, so once they're gone, they're gone?
Yeah, so Still This Zine, in case anybody doesn't know, it's I think it's 32 pages, might be 36, but it's a fully developed, fully formed zine, but you can't buy it. You have to steal it. Whether or not you steal it from my table, or you steal it from, like if I'm vending at a show or something, you steal it out of my backpack when you see me, or you steal it from one of your friends who stole it from me, or maybe stole it from somebody else, period. It's free. But
Perfect.
You gotta steal it. That's the whole point. I don't sell any. I don't give any away. You either gotta find it and steal it, or maybe you walk by the table, I'm not there, and just follow what it says on the front of the zine. Steal this zine. There's 50 copies. 5 of those went to Sweden. one of the collaborators in the book requested some copies, so there's 5 of those there. And then we had 45 copies left. I had a couple contributor copies. Some copy went to Casey Christopherson, who did some art. Copy went to Jay Shields, who did some art. Copy went to Adrian Landeros, who did some art. Everything else, once we run through those 50 copies, that's it. They're out there in the world. Go steal them.
Sweet. You heard it here first. It's open season.
It is. And
so you better not be carrying it around where I'm at. I'm gonna jack it.
Well, and I tell people, if you want a copy, just hang around the booth long enough. I'll go to the bathroom, or I'll be talking to somebody, and just come over and get it. I want you to steal it. That's the point. But I've had people try to buy copies, and I can't sell it. I can't sell you a copy. You've got to steal it. So it's out there for you to steal. So go get it. Obviously, it's all kind of a comical riff on Abby Hoffman's Steal This Book.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you see a copy from your buddy's got a copy, or you see one on a table somewhere, steal it.
For sure. All right. Okay. I don't know how good of a fan I am. It took me like halfway through the book to realize that this was a cassette tape. But it's friggin'... And then when I realized it, I was like, OMG, this is amazing. I mean, even the stuff inside it is, but yeah, no, I love it.
Yeah, that was the idea of my partner, graphic designer Tracy Steele. She had an idea. We were trying to figure out what to do with the back cover, and going through all these ideas. And she says, "What if we make it look like an old cassette tape?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's perfect. Let's do that." So really, the impetus and the thought behind that is all hers.
I've still got a little bit to read, like maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 pages. But I think my favorite thing in here is the moaning head of Saint Barch. That thing looks cool.
Yeah, it's weird. Here's a little inside baseball on that particular spooky little item. Obviously, it's a severed head of a cleric or a patriarch of some sort, and when you hold it up in battle or you bring it into battle, it nullifies moans, and it nullifies the ability to cast spells. But Saint Baruch was actually one of my old player characters that I actually ran through Rappanathic.
Oh, nice.
When that came out back in the early 2000s, clerics are my favorite. They're my favorite class to play. If I had a favorite, they would be the favorite. And we played Rappanathic for probably a good 2 years. So we really got way deep into the whole mythos and lore of Rappanathic, and that character, he rose up in the levels. This is during 3rd edition, where it was not like quite as harsh of a level climb as 1st and 2nd edition was. So he got up into those teens of levels before he bought the farm. But then afterwards, he was relevated into sainthood. So that's my character story, and that's how the moaning head of Saint Baruch got into magic and shit.
That's awesome. Why does Magic and Shit not have a playlist on Spotify?
It does.
Oh, it does. I'm gonna have to go find it now, because
I will. I'll most definitely send that over to you afterwards.
Sweet. I love the one for King Tut.
No, yeah. Yeah, the Rootin' Tootin' Weird West extravaganza.
Yeah. I don't know. I like that because I grew up in a little... Didn't really grow up. I just spent the most time in a little dinky coal town mine. So in front of the public library is a giant statue of Big John.
No. Nice.
Yeah.
I, too, grew up in a little rinky-dink town. So there wasn't anything to do but read old horror comics and Fangorias and get copies of Famous Monsters of Filmland secondhand, or grab comic books and copies of Cinefantastique and Starlog off the racks at the Piggly Wiggly, so.
Well, I'm glad that that's all there was to do, because now we get great material.
Well, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot to do. I mean, the Satanic Panic actually did hit our town. There was a little bit of a summer there, spring and summer, where it happened. And I got a little bit of that, but it's funny because my story with the Satanic Panic has a kind of a happy ending to it. So, and I had great parents who didn't buy into any of that at all. So it was a good ending for me. Not so much for other people, but for me, it was a happy ending.
That's good. I missed it.
Got yourself lucky.
Well, yeah, and like, I don't know. My grandfather was like, he was the one that bought all the books that my dad had that eventually came to me, and he just didn't care, which is really weird because he's pretty religious. Well, he was pretty religious, and
my first DM was our Sunday school. I don't know what you call, like the person who sits over, that teaches the kids at Sunday school.
Sunday school
I don't know
teacher.
what that position is called, but but he had three sons, and he had been in the military. He had traveled all over and had played D&D when he was in the military, and had quite a time of it, I guess, in Germany playing. So he brought that back with him. And when I met these brothers, actually at a local theater, they were auditioning for parts when I went back to their house to play like Nintendo or Atari or whatever, and they had these books laying around for D&D. He's like, yeah, my dad just pulled these out. He wants to get a game going. And I had like a little bit of like experience with I had found a monster manual, an old first edition monster manual at a garage sale. And then from that, and I think in the back of like a Starlog or a Fangoria magazine, I had ordered the red box. There had been an ad or some sort, and I had ordered. So I had these. I had basically the red box and the monster manual, but no dice, because my red box came, and for whatever reason didn't have any dice in it. So we were flipping coins to determine like a hit. Heads you hit, tails you lose, and just kind of trying to muddle our way through it. And if you think about those two editions, there's not a whole lot. Like there's crossover, but like the rules don't make much sense if you're trying to, we know there's hit points, we know there's armor class, but what's a Thaco? So we were just lost. But when I met this family with the three boys who are my age, I was able to learn actual D&D, and I saw D20 for the first time, and was able to get into playing that way.
That's awesome. Did the Phylactery 4 come out already, or is it still like in the works?
Yeah, Phylactery 4, obviously the fourth issue of our kind of flagship zine. It's out on PDF, so backers have it. Backers have it in their backer updates. You can go and grab it there. It's not out to the public yet. It's just there for backers. Phylactery 4 is wrapping up. We're making that look real pretty and trying to add in all the extra content, make sure all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted, all the additional material is in there, and everything's looking sweet. But that's not available yet either. So it's not due until December.
Okay.
But we're trying to get it out early and trying to get it out to everybody so that they have that. And then after that, we'll figure out whether or not we want to do any more issues of the Phylactery. So.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Might just be 4 and done. It might go on forever. Who knows?
I'm okay with either idea. I mean, I would want more, but I'm okay with either idea. I get it. It's hard.
Oh no, it's not the fact that it's hard. I love generating this material. It's just when it comes to ideas for zines, I have so many. Like I have so many that I want to do.
That's
so many
fair.
that I want to put out. So, like I said, I might just do 4 and be done. I might just kind of put a bow on it for a minute and come back to it later, or that might just be it. I've got, again, like right now on the schedule for products that are coming out, I think there are 5 zines for the next 2 years, and they're all different from each other. They're all separate. Like I've got a Monster zine coming out that is awesome. I mean, I'm already in love with it. I'm already like halfway through it, and I'm super, super into that. But I've got some other like stranger, weirder projects coming out. I've got a horror zine coming out that I did my research, man. And I don't think there's ever been one quite like this. So,
that's so cool.
and it's both out of my wheelhouse and way into my wheelhouse at the same time. I can't say much about it without giving it away. So,
right.
But I'm pretty excited about that one too. And then just other really, that's what I love about zines. You can really do strange and unusual things with zines. You can really kind of, without making a giant book about something, you can touch on something. You can touch on like the Weird West, or you can touch on sci-fi, or I suppose you want to do like an 80s zine dedicated to ninjas. You could just do it, and then here it is, all packaged into one little thing. And you can revisit it later, or you can never touch it again. But it's out there. The stuff that's in your brain, rattling around, begging to get out, it's all out there now. So that's kind of the groovy part about doing zines.
I was just about to ask why zines over big books, and there you go.
Well, zine, yeah, and listen, they're bite-sized pieces of imagination. I'm a zine fan going back to when I was 12. I told this story in Phylactery 3. There's in the editorial for Phylactery 3, but I'll kind of sum it up real quick. So in the back of those magazines I was talking about getting off the rack, like Piggly Wiggly, were like Fangoria and Cinefantastique and Starlog and just magazines like that. It was like my only view into that world of sci-fi and horror. Like it's the only thing that was available to me, in small town Arkansas. That was it. Other than like the used bookstore, you weren't going to find anything like that anywhere close. So I would get these magazines every month, and then in the back of those magazines, there were like classifieds. Like you could order like old horror. This is before the internet, obviously. This is like 84, 85. You could. I think this story happens in 86 when I was 12, but. In the back, you could find, like, you'd order old videotapes of, like, horror movies or old magazines or old issues of Famous Monsters of Filmland, usually just from guys who had them in a warehouse somewhere, But one of them that caught my eye was this, was a fanzine called Zope, Z-O-P-E, by this guy named Frank Nora out of New Jersey. And he had just basically what it was is he would make a zine, like you would send him art, and then he would put his own stuff in there, and then everybody else on that mail loop would send him stuff. He'd make a zine, and then he would send it out to everybody, a copy of it out to everybody else in the mail loop. So I was doing that for a few months, and I had again, I'm 12, and this is right when like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the comic, not the cartoon, but the comic was like a big deal. So I had like my own take on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which was called. And I apologize for this in advance, but it was called the Turbo Titty Ninja Nuns. Straight out of a 12-year-old's brain from 1986. And it featured like these nuns with big guns. They had the habit, and then where their breasts were like engine turbines for it was just ridiculous. But again, straight from the mind of a 12-year-old. So I sent that in, some other stuff, and then I would start getting them in the mail. These big packages would come for me, and the zine was like thick. It was like 100 pages.
Wow.
But it was just like paper that was folded and stapled. It was very simple, like most zines used to be. Yeah. Real cheap, real simple. So I got those for a couple months, and then one day I come home from school, and my mom is sitting on the couch with this package that she's opened, because it's from a strange man in New Jersey, And she's like, "Okay, you've got to explain why you're getting mail from somebody we don't know in New Jersey," And she's just being a mom. She's just being doing what she's supposed to do, being a protective mom. So I explained what was going on, and she was livid, but not like to the point of like trying to suppress any kind of like artistic expression or anything. Yeah. I had pretty cool parents, but she says, "Hey, listen, you can't be sending mail to a strange man in New Jersey. You can't do this." And then she pulls out Turbo Titty Ninja Nuns, and she goes, "And you can't be drawing this kind of stuff at school. So like." This whatever this is over, but let's go get some comics, or let's you want to take up art lessons again? Like, let's figure out something where you can take this energy and put it in a good positive direction. So that was the end of my zine career after 2 or 3 months. But sadly, the Ninja Nuns never made it to prime time. So that's my zine origin right there.
Man, I don't know about anybody else listening to this, but while you were telling that story, all I heard is you got to fight for your right to party.
Yeah, it's and again, zines, a bite-sized piece of coolness. You can do anything. In the years after that, like when I was older and was out on my own, I would go to record stores and I would see punk zines and like heavy metal zines, and I would always buy those. They were like $1. So I would just pick those up, and I wish I still had them all. I got rid of them years and years ago, just literally threw them out. But I wish that I still had them all, because man, what a peek back into super subculture that is.
Yeah, I hear about zines every week because you got me turned on to this podcast called Wobblies and Wizards.
Oh yeah,
I haven't made it to your episode yet, but I really dig that podcast.
Yeah, man. So one of the things I really love about that podcast, and a lot of podcasts do the same thing, but one of the things I really like about that particular one is when you're talking to Logar there, he is 1,000% genuine. That guy truly loves games. He loves gaming. He loves the culture around gaming. He loves sitting down with people to learn about pieces of the culture that he doesn't understand or know. He is 1,000% invested and completely genuine. So when you talk to him, man, it's a real conversation. It's not like, you're not just like reading over talking points or trying to promo a product or something. Like, it's like this, like, it's just a conversation, and that's one of the things that I really, really enjoy about talking to him. So I would do his show 1,000 times over. He's
that's
just a cool
awesome.
dude.
Yeah, no, that's cool. You said that clerics, if you had a favorite class, would be your favorite class. Why?
Yes.
Why?
So clerics, back in like the early editions, honestly, if you played one cleric who was lawful good and worshipped this deity, he really wasn't that different than if you played another character who was neutral evil and worshipped this evil. If you just looked at them with the names marked off, they were kind of the same character. That was true with a lot of classes, like with fighters and wizards and stuff. With the wizards, you got a little bit more. You could move your spells around, or maybe your magic items to find you a little bit. Those early editions, just looking at the numbers, the same character. If you had 2 9th level wizards, other than their spell selection, they were kind of the same. But then 2nd edition comes along. The 2nd edition is where I played the most of my role playing experience as a young man. And then, you get Forgotten Realms comes into the picture, and they have all these crazy deities and gods, demi-powers, gods that aren't quite gods yet. They add in these kits and these classes, and then all these cool bits of lore and kind of pieces that that help define the gods of the Forgotten Realms. And then, the Greyhawk did it a little bit, and then Planescape comes out, and that's just a whole other thing. But in 2nd edition, clerics really get a kind of a comeuppance. They really get that like, hey, we were kind of like just like everybody else before, but now the customization goes off the charts because of a 2nd or 3rd level cleric of Zeus no longer looks anything like the 2nd or 3rd level cleric of Vecna, or whoever. So the customization for that really goes off the charts. And in the Forgotten Realms, they put out these books. They were a little bit more than splat books because they're superbly written.
Faith and Avatars.
They were Faith and Avatars, and then there were 2 others. There was like one for like monster deities that was really well done.
Now I have to go find those.
Yeah, there were 3 of those really, really good Forgotten Realms centric books. And listen, I don't play a lot of Forgotten Realms now, and I honestly did then. I just really liked the lore and the way that those writers were putting forth their ideas. I thought I've always liked Ed Greenwood stuff. Ever since the early days of Dragon Magazine, I would just feast on those little tidbits of lore and bits about different places. And he had such a fantastic visionary mind for world building that, even though I didn't play much Forgotten Realms, I read it all. Like I bought it all. I would buy it and just devour it, read it. I loved it. So when it comes to clerics, I really enjoyed the customization of them all. Plus, you get down to like just you're playing at a con or something, you got decent hit points, you got decent armor, you got healing spells. You're probably going to survive if you play a cleric and you're not, you're being safe about it. So yeah, that's why I like the clerics.
All right, that's cool. I did most of my clericing in 3rd edition because the group we played with needed a cleric. And there wasn't really an assassin unless you wanted to take a prestige class.
Yep.
But yeah, my go-to class is the assassin.
I mean, it's a cool class.
Yeah.
It's hard not to enjoy, those cool abilities. And, who doesn't at some point want to play the dark, shadowy character or a, character who, is more anti-hero than hero.
Yeah. Who doesn't want to contribute to murder by the roadside?
I mean, that goes both ways, but it's cool to play the Arya Stark or the what's his name from Thieves World. I'm blanking. Anyways, it's cool to play those kind of archetypes and those characters.
Yeah. So, what setting, if any, did you play in?
So, starting out with that little red box and monster manual, trying to put those two together. Obviously we played through the Bargle and Alana there at the end. Where not Alana, Bargle and oh gosh, I'm going to get roasted by the OSR crowd because I can't remember this character's name. But anyways, I played through the stuff in the early box sets. But a lot of it was just was homebrew. We just kind of came up with our own eyes. And obviously, when you're a young guy, we stole, lots of stuff that we read. We were picking pieces from Elric and Roger Zelazny's Amber and, all the Conan and Lovecraft, all this stuff. We were kind of just throwing it into a big mix. But I actually didn't even play any modules or any I didn't see any modules until I was a young man in the Navy, and then was playing with people in the military, and I had a really good DM who ran me through all the early Greyhawk modules. Starting with Homeland. We went through all those. I missed out on Keep of the Warlands until later, but we did Homeland all the way up through the with the Queen of the Demon Web Pits. We went all through all those, all the giants and all that kind of stuff. So it's mostly Greyhawk for me during those years in the military. But I was reading a ton of Forgotten Realms and a ton of other stuff. Planescape came out during that time. I really enjoyed that. For Forgotten Realms, I ran an Undermountain campaign for a long time because it's just so easy. You go down the well and then boom, who knows what's going to happen. But a lot of that, even that was homebrewed. I came up with most of my own ideas for what was in the dungeon rather than going by what they had written in there.
Yeah.
And then. Again, really enjoyed Planescape. And, there were a few, a time or two, I diverted off into, tried Alkadim, which was a very interesting setting. I think it read better for me than it played, at least at that time. Did Spelljammer for, a handful of sessions. And Dark Sun, I quite enjoyed. But I think it was more because of the DM that I had rather than the setting.
Okay.
That DM, no matter what he ran, it was always cool, But if I had to pick one setting from, back in the day, I think it'd probably have to be Arduin. Are you familiar with that?
I'm not.
So Arduin was like when D&D was coming out, over in the Midwest, through, over in TSR land, Wisconsin. At the same time, they were kind of developing stuff over on the West Coast. And a guy named Dave Hargrave basically took the D&D rules and he basically just kind of stole them. And, but he just made his own sort of offshoot of D&D called the Arduin system, Arduin Grimoire, for the first couple books. And it's fascinating. Like it's just really, really cool to see like the differences between the two, and like where Gygax and all those guys that were around him, they kind of went off in this direction. Arduin just goes into crazy town. I mean, you read those first couple books, and it's just in lunacy. Like 1 minute he'll be talking about the combat system, and then 2 pages later, there's like 3 pages about prismatic walls. And then that hits over to like a crit chart and a fumble chart that is like literally so brutal you can barely play with it. Onto like 4 pages of the weirdest magic items you've ever read, and then onto like a bestiary full of these little like 4-line monsters. It's just when you go back and read it, it really is insanity. Like it's just crazy town, but its real strength is in the lore and the and how different it is from D&D. Like it's same. It's like you can kind of like you look at it and you go, oh, I recognize this, but then like it veers wildly off into crazy town, and you're like, what is happening? Like what's going on here? So I really enjoyed Arduin and those, especially the first 4 books that they put out. But then, Dave Hargrave, the creator, he passes away. It passes through some different hands, and it's in the hands of Emperor's Choice now, a different company. And they're doing different things with it while still trying to honor Dave's legacy. But when you go back and look at the lore and the interesting tidbits in it, like all the little things that you can kind of pluck for your own games, your own campaign, man, it's hard to pass. It's super cool. Like you would have no Planescape without Arduin, and without Arduin Grimoire and their idea of all these thousands of gates and all these different worlds kind of interconnecting together. I don't know that Zeb Cook and his team would have come up with the brilliant pitch for Planescape that they had, because Planescape is another one of those products that's just, in my opinion, it's just brilliant. You take the writing and the setting and you pair it up with Tony DiTerlizzi's art, and it's truly something special.
Sweet.
Sorry, I got a little passionate there for a minute.
Yeah, no, it's great. No Ravenloft. I mean, what happened to I like Halloween?
No, I listen. I loved reading that stuff, but I could never get a Ravenloft group together.
Okay.
Everybody that wanted to play Ravenloft was already playing Call of Cthulhu.
Oh, that's
so
fair.
It was really hard. I had the box set. I had the original I6 module for Ravenloft. And again, I6 is one of those modules that's, I mean, it's just completely, you can't mess with it. It's so good.
Yeah.
But nobody wanted to play Ravenloft. So I never had the true Ravenloft experience until much later on.
Gotcha. I used to, I won't say terrorize, but I used to pick on the people at the game store, because I used to go in there so much that I always knew when someone was new, because they didn't know who I was. So we're already into 5th edition, and Ravenloft, Castle Strahd had just barely come out. I went in there and I found a copy in their used section of I6, and it didn't have a price tag on it. So I was like, hey, how much is this? And she's Googling, or she's eBaying a price, and she's like, wait a minute. Is this what Curse of Strahd is based on? And I was just oh, honey, let me tell you a story.
Yeah, you just don't know. Yeah, you don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that back in the day, that was one of those modules that I had when I was a young man. I'd read but not played. I've still never played all the way through it, but I have run it, and nice. And it's a really, really good adventure. It's one of the top 20 ever, easily, in my opinion.
What's your favorite monster?
Without like thinking too much about it, the Lich. I really like Liches. They're kind of like, they're the ultimate bad guy. And you can, again, like clerics, you can go in so many different offshoots and different ways with them. You can really do some interesting things with liches, and they're high power, and their ability to utilize magic makes them not only just deadly foes but interesting foes, because they can you can kind of write in cool magic effects and cool dungeon features that wouldn't traditionally see. So I like liches, but I like a lot of the iconics. I like mind flayers. I like beholders. I like orcs. I like goblins, oozes, lots of undead creatures. If I had to choose like a weird monster, like I'm trying to think of something that nobody else is saying. Like, what's my favorite strange monster? I really like the Grell. The big brain with the tentacles and the beak. And I think a lot of that comes from having the little action figure for the Grell when I was a kid. I had that thing rattling around in my toy box until I was ready to leave home. So I like the Grell. I think the Flumph is an interesting monster in the fact that it's not evil and it's not combat oriented. So that kind of leaves it open to a lot of different interpretations on, like, why is this thing here? Why is what does this thing do? So I think that's a monster. Not, I say monster. That's a thing that's ripe for use and to be interesting, because again, it's not one of those things that's been utilized a lot. I've got this note in my I have all these idea books, that I write pencil ideas in, and it just says Flump Force 5, about a crack team of commando flumps. I have no idea if that will ever make a zine or that will ever make it into a book, but a couple years from now, if you're just paging through some random zine and it says Flump Force 5, you know where it came from.
That's awesome. That would be a great team. That's awesome. How long do you?
Yeah, I love monsters. I love running monsters. I love creating monsters. I just, in general, I just like, I have tons of homebrewed monsters and stuff that has made it in the phylactery and into modules and stuff. But that's like like when you see the iceberg, you're only seeing like the 10%.
Yep. Like
there's so much more that I've got just floating around in books and fragments of documents and whatnot, stuff that didn't make a cut into a final. Like I just cut a monster out of this Frog God adventure that I'm writing because it just didn't quite fit. It's a cool monster, but it'll have to be used elsewhere. So another time. But I've got what you're seeing is only the tip of the iceberg. I love monsters. I love writing them. Love using them. More monsters, please.
For sure. I like monsters too. My all-time favorite is those weird-shaped ones with, why can't I think of their name? But
the Modrons.
The Modrons. Those are my favorite monsters.
Yeah, they're so whack. I love the fact that, I think, wasn't it Monty Cook and Bruce Cordell, along with Tony DiGerlisi on the art, they made that great Modron March module, which was fantastic. Like, they finally took Modrons and made them kind of interesting and made them make sense and put them in a context where it was like, oh, like, these are the cogs of the universal machine. Let's extrapolate on that 1,000 times and see what happens. And man, what a lunatic adventure that is. It's awesome.
I need to go find that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And somehow they work Orcus into it, and it's like,
oh sweet,
what's happening? Like, yeah, like like where what was going on in your guys' brain to come up with this adventure? Because it's give me more of that because it's fantastic.
Sweet. Is there anything we haven't covered that you want to talk about today?
Oh no! Again, I just wanted to hang. I like the hang of a podcast. When it comes down to like Planet X stuff, got a full slate. Doing the first Indiegogo coming up for a zine called Big Eye Chungus.
Nice.
It's about everyone's favorite big-eyed monster that floats through dungeons.
So what you're saying is it's about a gelatinous cube.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That sounds right on point. So Big Eye Chungus will be on Indiegogo soon. The next thing we're doing for Planet X on Kickstarter is an adventure scenario for 5e called Three Curses for Sister Sarin.
Yeah,
and that's that is the first actual beginner adventure. Like you could be levels 1 to 3 and go through this and make it out the other end. But it's back to the old, if you're familiar with the earlier stuff we did, it's back to like that grindhouse sort of cinematic feel to RPGs that we did with Jungle Tomb and the Mummy Bride and Currents of Howling Crater, Escape from Volcano Island, all those earlier modules that we did. This is back on track with that, and it's written by a great writer named MacLeod, who's just done a fantastic job. Great, all the guys that you're used to seeing in Planet X products, Adrian Landeros and Ed Bickford and Dan Smith and folks like that. They're doing the art and cartography, so it's coming out. A really beautiful book, but that should be available probably mid to late August is when that will hit. And then there's just every 2 months or so there's something coming. So
nice.
We're way ahead on where we need to be. So
I've seen the art for this new adventure, and it looks amazing.
Yeah, the guys really knocked it out of the park. I've been lucky enough to team up with some really, really good artists. Not only color cover artists, but just black and white interiors, which is what I like. And I can keep the price point down on books that way too. I don't have to have $50 books every time I put something out. I can keep it down to, for zines, $10-15, or with adventures, $20 to $25. I can keep the price point down on that so that everyone can afford it. Rather than if you're pitching pennies, you can't get it. You just have to get the PDF. So
sweet.
I like to keep them affordable.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
No, I mean, listen, we've all been there. Listen, sometimes I go to log in and get something. I'm like, I don't know if I can afford this. Like, can I justify spending $100 on this box set? I don't know, man. I can do a lot of things with that $100. I can take my kid to the aquarium, So
wow, I wish I could go to the aquarium for $100. I mean, I guess if I had a kid, I could, but I have multiple kids.
Oh yeah. You're not even going to the movies for $100.
Nope. Oh man. Oh, that reminds me.
I got 2 sons. One's already grown, and the other's 5. So, one's out on his own. He can pay his own way to the movies. But the little guy, he's just getting invested. So, yeah.
When are we getting the basketball prison camp adventure?
You remembered.
I do.
No basketball camp adventures. Although I do have this thing that I'm doing with my friend John, the same guy I'm writing the Frog God module with, from Vintage RPG, called Ninja Heat, which is a kind of a summer adventure, but ninjas in the city. Imagine ninjas on little 500 Kawasaki crotch rockets shooting RPGs off their shoulders, and all the insanity of a Miami Vice episode.
Nice.
Crossed over with like B grindhouse style lunacy. So that will be a fun one to do. It's not quite the basketball prison adventure, but Ninja Heat. Yeah, it's coming.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. This has been fun.
Yeah, man. I really follow you online. I always like the positivity in your posts, and I really, really just wanted to have a conversation and just shoot the shit. So
yeah, no, it's always fun. Like I might have to do this format more because I want to. When I have guests on, I want to promote their stuff, but just talking about stupid stuff has been really fun.
No, that's when you have like a good hang of our podcast, that's my favorite kind of podcast to do, because that's when the good stuff comes out. So
yeah,
it's just like two people just sitting down and just shooting the breeze.
It's been fun. So
cool.
For me, myself, and Levi, mahalo and have a great day. Again, thank you for listening to The Kevin Long Show. You can find us on Facebook at The Kevin Long Show. You can find us on Twitter at The Kevin Long SH1. Or you can email the show, thekevinlongshow@gmail.com.